Hey everyone, welcome back to the Quiet Light podcast. Today I have Mihkel from Digital Merchant on this episode. I'm excited to have you on, Mihkel, because your story is a little different from what we normally have on the Quiet Light podcast. I know just recently, a few episodes ago, we had previous clients on that exited their business for a seven-figure exit. And that's obviously a story that's fun for us to tell. It's great for us to tell because we get to show you, what we're able to do at Quiet Light. And all that. In today's episode, we're going to talk to Mihkel, who was a client of Quiet Light, but ended up not selling his business and is better off for it. So a little counterintuitive as to what we're going to be doing and talking about today, which I love. I love this angle because it always catches people by surprise that we would even bother to talk about this, but I think it's super important to do. Just as a reminder, this podcast is brought to you from Quiet Light Brokerage. We've been doing this for 14 years at this point, helping entrepreneurs sell their businesses. And this involves planning the sale of your business, which can occur several years in advance. In fact, I had a call earlier today with somebody who I talked to 14 years ago, right when I started Quiet Light Brokerage. And so please feel free to reach out if you ever want a valuation of your business to us. We're happy to provide that valuation just to give a check-in on the potential value of your business and where it is. So with no further ado, Mihkel, thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast. I'm super excited to share your story.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Now you worked with Brian O'Neill, and Brian is a broker with Quiet Light, but he's also our CTO. But this was back when he was doing quite a bit more of the brokering side of things. This was back in 2018. How did you find Brian in the first place? And what I really want to get into even beyond that is why were you thinking about selling the business? And any background you can provide on the business, please do. Obviously, confidentiality is important. So, be as vague as you want or as specific as you want on that.
Yeah, sure thing. So I started my Amazon business in 2016, somewhere around March, February. And I was about to sell my business with Quiet Light in July or August of 2018. So almost 2 years after I started. The reason I wanted to stop was because I was just frustrated. I had not maybe made the best decisions. This was my first venture ever as an entrepreneur. Had like a traditional career background before that, and made some mistakes. Was frustrated with Chinese copycats. Was frustrated with some of the competitors. Was frustrated with my business partner, who we had really different ideas about work ethic and the perspective of the business. And so the easiest way to just get out of it, I was just like almost burned out. The easiest way out seemed to just sell the business and start something new from zero. And then I heard, I think on AM PM podcast, Joe Valley talk about selling business, and he said Quiet Light. And then I wrote to you guys right after that, and I got connected to Brian, who is also a fellow Estonian. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's a big world, but it's a small world at the same time. In that process that you went through, I often actually quote that as being a good reason to sell. Because oftentimes people will come and they'll ask, financially, when should I sell my business? How big should the business be? And my answer to that's always the same: don't. Like, if you're making good money from the business and you enjoy running it, why keep doing it? But the burnout that you went through, like, that is often one of those warning flags that I tell people look out for, because your business is going to go one of two directions at that point. Either you survive that burnout, which can be really difficult to do, or you're going to hang on to it and think you can grind it out, and then you're going to end up with something that's probably not worth much at all. So it's one of those areas that can be difficult to decide whether or not you want to sell. It sounds like you were at the point where, look, you're throwing your hands up. Let's get rid of it. Let's get the next few years revenue in my pocket, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So how did that sales process go from the beginning? This was I don't want to get specific with the prices. This was a six-figure transaction, kind of lower mid-range six-figure transaction, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about the numbers too. I don't mind.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
If you want. Yeah. So the valuation was at $210,000. So not too much. I think the final offer was at 190, 195 or something like this. So a little bit lower, plus inventory, of course. But yeah, initially when we started, we looked through the numbers, did the P&Ls and everything. Brian actually told us to wait a few months to, clean out the P&L a little bit, to make it look a little bit nicer. And yeah, then we went through several calls with some people who were like really interested, but for some reason they dropped off. There were like funds who really lowballed at like 1.5x of the multiple. And finally there were two guys with real estate background who wanted to get into the online business world, and they liked the brand, they liked the idea. The business seemed like feasible enough to try out as a first thing. So that's why they were interested, and we started closing on the deal.
Yeah, that process of talking to buyers and seeing some of them come in at different prices. I mean, it can be such an emotional roller coaster, especially if you're done with the business. Were you getting frustrated with some of those offers as they came through, or were you pretty well prepared to expect, that things are going to come in at different points, and this is a process?
No, yeah, well, I wasn't expecting some of that, that's for sure, because like at the end of each call, your hopes are really high up, because the buyers, they're saying really good things about your business, how you've been like such a good business owner, and you've been so smart, and all these things they say. But then at the end, the valuation or the price point that they offer like doesn't really reflect that oftentimes. And there can be two things, one thing is that they try to get a good deal, and the second thing is like maybe you're emotionally too attached to your business that you see it as more valuable than it really is, which is also something you can fall into a trap to.
Yeah, and I think from a buyer standpoint, it can be really difficult, right? Because and we talk about this a lot in working with buyers, which is, there's two approaches. One is to thank the seller and appreciate what they've built and make sure that you show appreciation for that. That's one side. The other side is that some people try and knock down the business, but that leaves people that are selling in this weird position of thinking, well, why are you even looking at this thing, right? Like if you hate my business so much, if you want to just tell me everything that's wrong, first of all, forget you. And second of all, like, why are you even on the phone with me if you don't like it? So you have to walk that line, I think, and show proper appreciation and all that. That's interesting feedback and insight into kind of what was going on in your mind as you got some of these offers. I'm no stranger to that. The first business I sold, we listed, this is before I started Quiet Light, we listed for $365,000, and the first offer I got was $75,000. So I'm familiar with what that's like, and it's a roller coaster. It was a punch in the gut, and you quickly learn market forces are what they are, and hard to go against those. All right, so you went under offer, and you went through a lot of the process of due diligence, and then what we hope doesn't happen happened. The deal fell apart. Talk to me a little bit about what happened leading up to that LOI being broken and falling apart.
Yeah, of course. And well, basically everything was nice, and we did the due diligence. They had like an expert Amazon seller who was like an Amazon guru who verified my business. I've even seen him in different webinars and podcasts before. So I was like, okay, like he said, it's good business. They had their accountants go through everything, said everything checked out. But what happened, and basically we were about to finalize the deal, but what happened was right about that time before final signature and transaction, the review score for the bestseller product, it went from 4.3 stars to 4.2 stars. So visually on Amazon, it means from 4.5 stars to 4 stars. So this really meant that 30% of decline in sales overnight. And it was really hard to explain it to the buyer that, this sometimes happens, like it's gonna probably go back up because it had happened before, and it was like going up and down like this. But they got really scared, and I really don't blame them for it, because if I would look at a business like that from like a bystander perspective, like neutral perspective, and I'd see something like this happen like right before I buy, I'd be, scared too that maybe there's something sketchy going on. So I don't blame them at all. So, but this is why it fell through. Yeah.
Those quarter point rounding on the stars, right? That's so frustrating. That's the way it works. You get 4.25 and it looks like 4. It's somewhat understandable too. I mean, we find that buyers in the lower 6 figures tend to be more sensitive to bad news than those at higher dollar points. So it's not terribly surprising, although it's a shame. Your story is one that it's not common, thankfully, right? Having broken deals doesn't happen a lot. In fact, over the past 2 years, we've averaged about 1.2 LOIs needed to get a close. That means, signed LOIs when we take into account something that may have been broken or fallen apart. So it's a fairly rare event that happens. And, in your case, it worked out for the better. And this is one of those things where we look at it and there's always this decision when you are looking to sell. And like I said earlier, when you're burnt out of, should I just run the business? Should I try and work through this and grow it, or should I sell? And for you, hanging on to the business, this was a blessing in disguise. I'm sure you were frustrated when the deal fell apart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's never fun at all. And I'm sure Brian was frustrated as well. How long did it take after that fell apart for you to decide that you were going to go a different direction than trying to sell? How long did it take to kind of recover from the letdown?
Yeah, same night, the same night I decided, I got so angry but I got emotional angry but I felt there was nobody else to blame but myself, because maybe the business wasn't actually that good as I thought. So I decided, a few hours after that, I decided, okay, I'm just gonna fix all those single things that took down the valuation, that looked bad for the buyer, and I'm just gonna sell it 6 to 12 months down the road. I'm just gonna fix those issues, and it really meant that over the next few days I had to confront some brutal facts. I had to list out everything we sucked at. So basically from products to systems to the stuff that we're doing, and start to slowly redo that process in order to make it good. For example, the review problem. So the decision that I did was that I took I dropped the Chinese suppliers and I started using US based suppliers. So basically what happened is the margin, it went down a lot initially, but the product quality went up. So the same product that was at 4.2 stars, it's right now at 4.7 stars. So, and it's bestseller. So it grew over time, up and up and up. And the other products, they work the same way. So after 6 months or a year, I started looking hey, I don't want to sell this business right now because it's going really, really well. And this last year, 2020, we did over 3 million in sales already. So and also got an offer for over 2 million from a private buyer, but we're not selling at this moment.
Yeah, this is something that's so cool about the exiting process and the valuation process as well, is hopefully you get sort of this hit list of things to improve on your business. And what you talked about, I'd love to go more into detail about some of the things you did to fix the business, because we're talking 2018. We're recording this here early 2021, January 2021.
Yep.
So we're talking about a year and 2 years, right? Effectively,
2 years, yeah.
A little bit more than 2 years, 2.5 years or so, to bring this business from where it was to almost actually more than 10xing the value of the business, which is, wow, that's a lot of that's a ton. But this exiting process, having a good business to sell is usually having a good business to run, right? I mean, these two things align really, really well. And the marketplace is brutally honest to you about what's wrong with your business and what needs to happen to improve it. And just the valuation process, when we go through evaluation, that's often what we look at, right? Where are you going to get knocked down in the marketplace? Nothing personal to the people we talk to, but we want to help improve that value. So I love that juxtaposition of how you increase the value of the business using the feedback that you got. Let's talk a little bit about that process. Sure. Of 10xing the value of the business here in 2 years. you already talked about moving from China-based suppliers to US-based suppliers, which
Yep.
I think most people listening to this would be scared to do. How did you justify that move? And then I'd be interested also in some of the other big items that you looked at that really made a difference.
Yeah, well, it wasn't an easy decision, but the frustration, like that specific decision, came from the fact that I just saw competitors coming with worse products, but buying reviews and just pushing them up, and I knew it was crap product that they were selling, but I couldn't do anything about it. So I thought, okay, let's do it a little bit differently. So let's source from USA. Let's brand it as made in USA, like patriotic, made in USA and all that, and it worked, but it wasn't that easy because the products weren't perfect in USA either. Like it took us, I think, around 10 to 12 rounds of reiterations to that product to make it good finally. That was like an 18-month, pretty grueling process. You had to go through. Second thing we did is we just started adding more products. Like the big decision was like, we had one product that was doing like 30-40% of the sales, and if that loses value so much, that's a big red flag for the buyers. So basically what we did is I took a decision that, okay, let's launch one new product each quarter. So and started doing that. Soon after that, we started launching 2 products a quarter, and now recently we're doing 4 to 6 products a quarter. These are all sourced, developed, made unique, but our team has grown as well. So it's not only me doing this. Of course, it's a team of people who's in the background. So these are some of the things. Main thing is product quality. Like nobody wants to buy crap. Like it doesn't matter if it's from Amazon or if it's a business. Like when I look back at the business now, like 2.5 years later, like I can be honest, like probably that business wasn't even that good at this moment. Like it looked good to me, but I was like really biased because it was my baby.
That reminds me of a study I saw, which said if you want to beat a competitor in a marketplace, you can't be marginally better than your competitor. The studies show you have to be at least 7 times better. And where that 7 times better comes in is your customer's bias for the established brand. But then the other part of that 7 times comes up from the owner's bias towards their own product, thinking that it's better when it probably isn't. Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Interesting point. Do you advertise that you manufacture in the USA? Is that part of your marketing strategy?
Yeah, and it works really well because we're the highest, basically the highest option for most of our products in our niche, and we have, we do have the highest review scores as well, or the same as like the second highest person. But this made in USA, it works really well for us, and there's lots of small things actually like that you can change with perception even, which is like really good. But yeah. That's worked really well for us. And another thing that we actually did that, thinking of right now is because we had to launch so many more products in order to have like an even portfolio. So if something drops off, it's not the end of the world. To do that, you have to develop systems. So like this is the thing that's called SOPs. That was a big process too. I mean, there were 4 of us in our team back at that time, and it took us 5 months to write out like 120 plus SOPs for every process we were doing. So it would be repeatable and the quality would hold like every time we do it. We developed like a product pipeline. So like the biggest problem that usually happens with sellers in 6 figures is that you fall in love with your product and you start ignoring red flags because you feel you've done so much work, you've invested so much into this product. How can I let it go now? And you start cutting corners. You start lowering your numbers, your standards. But if you have a big list of ideas all the time, like we had 5, like if we had 25 ideas, out of which like 5 to 7 made it to the sourcing step, out of which 1 made it to the market. So if you have that, it's no problem. The numbers don't run out. You know, you have like new products right away that you can take and start the process again. It's not emotionally painful anymore. You can like be rational about the decisions you do.
Yeah, the idea of expanding product line is one of the most basic things you can do, but it's also like one of the more effective things you can do. I want to talk real quick though, back up to the SOPs. Are you using any specific software to develop those SOPs? Are you relying on video? Are you relying on some SaaS software to do it? Are you just writing it up in Google Docs or other word processing? How have you attacked that portion? Because I think people get a little unsure about how detailed they should be with those SOPs, how tight they should make those versus loose and open to interpretation.
Yeah. So we have everything in Google Docs. So like I've seen some more advanced systems, but up to this date, we haven't seen a reason to change it yet. I mean, we might have to, because when the bigger the catalog gets, the harder it's to manage in different folders. So that's kind of annoying sometimes. But what we do is we create like a master SOP list, like in an Excel, with descriptions and links to each of the sub SOPs. So you can open the master list and go to the right SOP at any time. So it's really, really easy. For some SOPs, we have checklists. Initially, we thought we're going to do checklists for everything, but that's not necessary. It's just overkill. Initially, we thought, let's do a video for everything. That's also overkill. You don't need that. We only have like 5-6 videos for like more complicated processes. So
yeah, that makes sense. And you know, with the video thing, I like the video because it's easy. But the problem with the video side is if you're the one using the SOP, sometimes you just need one reminder of I need to do this. And watching a 5-minute video is such a waste of time, as opposed to looking at a checklist where like what came after this step, and you can just look that up, right?
They're often not 5-minute videos either. They're like more like 15 to 20 minutes, and you know, try to find this right point. So
right. Yeah, you're skipping all around, and you just wish it be written out. That makes sense. The product development side of things. So before, when you initially sold the business, you had something of a unicorn ACE and a unicorn product that was really kind of the best seller, right? Are you able to share, or do you remember what percentage of sales that made up?
It was like 30-40%.
Okay, so it was a big seller in your overall catalog. How many different products were you selling at the time? Different ASINs? About
5 or 6.
Okay, so a pretty small. And if you're able to share, how many are you at today, approximately?
36.
36. Yeah. So you 10x the business, but you have not 10x the product line, but you have increased it significantly. Right. That makes a lot of sense. If you were to create, like, you know, as far as the things that had the most impact, you've already said the quality, increasing the quality of the product. Obviously, quality increases the ratings. Ratings increase your visibility and Amazon's ability to recommend you, and people's influence your conversion rate, right? So people are influenced by high ratings. Expanding the product line. What I want to know if there's anything else that is kind of like top of mind for you to say, here's what we did that really made a big difference. SOPs, you mentioned that as well. But I'd also like to get from you what you think may have been the most impactful out of those three to have really been turning the corner. When did you notice your sales, you know, really starting to ramp back up?
Oh, there's one more thing. Out of stock, like good inventory management, and that can ruin a valuation.
Well, absolutely. Like, I mean, the vast majority of businesses we sell, I think, have had some sort of inventory issues within, you know, a few years. It's so hard. I mean, this is one of the downsides to ordering from China, again, is especially if you have to ship on the water, you know, you're looking at this 3-month minimum sort of lead time for ordering product, and it can be really hard to get that right. I would imagine that's easier with US based suppliers.
Yeah, but if I had to still point out at least like only one thing, that would be product quality. Like if your product can hold a 4.5 to 5-star review score, like literally everything you do, everything, like from conversion to ranking, pay-per-click, everything becomes multiple times easier. Like it becomes so much easier. And the product has to differentiate as well. So not only color, but there's actually so many little ways you can make the products better. Like if you take the time to read like 2 or 3 books on buyer psychology related to physical products, or like a product development book, ABC book like that, then it puts you miles ahead of competitors, because most Amazon sellers, they still think in terms of, okay, let's change the packaging, let's change the color, and that's the product development. But there's so much more you can do that's actually not that expensive to do, and it has a big impact.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a book that you'd recommend? And if not, you can email me later. I'll put in the show notes. But if you have one now, that'd be great.
I'll send you the picture and image of it later. I can't remember the name of it, but I do have it on the shelf. Yeah.
Okay, very good. We'll put in the podcast notes for anyone that wants to know, and we'll see if we remember to get it in the email blast that goes out as well as a recommendation, because I think that'd be good for people to listen to, and something that I've had a lot of these conversations. I've never heard anyone make that suggestion, and I think it's a great suggestion, because you're right. So many people do. They'll talk about their unique product, and what they really have done is just a different color combination or different packaging, right? And that they don't worry about the actual product quality itself. But that's an art in and of itself. I want to go back over to the psychological side and your mindset, right? Because going into the sale, what led you to this desire to sell the company was frustration with everything. It sounds like. I mean, it sounds like you woke up to this business kind of dreading working on it. When the deal fell apart, you had to have turned a corner to say, obviously, I'm going to work on this, but more importantly, to stop hating what you were doing, right? And that's a difficult corner to turn. Did that happen right away for you, or did that take some time?
No, it took time and it took help. That's one extra thing. One other decision that I consciously did at the moment is to hire help for the business. So I was very lucky. I found a person who is now our CEO and partner in the business as well. That was really dedicated, excited, wanted to learn Amazon, wanted to do it well, and he was very detail oriented. So he took over a lot of the product development and inventory and those problem solving side. So this like it's almost like a load fell off your shoulders, and the moment this happened, the business became so much more fun to do again. Like it wasn't like an overnight turnaround, but initially when you bring on a new person, at least for me, like the first 3, 4, 5 months, it was actually harder than before, because besides managing the business and saving it from going to ruins or burning or whatever, and growing it, you had to teach someone else to do it as well. So, but there's like at month 3, 4 or so, you start feeling that you're not carrying all of the load anymore. And this is a really big, like as an entrepreneur, it's a really big relief moment. You feel like, oh, it's working. What they write in the books, it's true.
Yeah, it's the age-old advice, right? Outsource what you hate or hire what you hate doing. And
yeah.
But it is true. Absolutely. Today in the business, what keeps you up at night, or what are you looking at that you think you could improve? Not from like a business standpoint necessarily. I don't want to give away your secrets, but more from an entrepreneur, I love what I do standpoint. What would get you further along that path, do you think? Or are you at a point where you're like, no, I just really like what I'm doing right now?
Yeah, well, recently what I've enjoyed is doing a podcast like this. I mean, it's so I'm thankful for inviting me. I did a podcast in November or December here in Estonia as well. It was really fun, like giving back and sharing, like and people being thankful for it. So that was actually fun, and I've enjoyed it a lot so far. So as far as go in the Amazon business side. Well, we're trying to think of new levels. So, launching a new product or 2 new products, that's kind of feels not boring, but if you've done it many times, it doesn't feel like a challenge anymore. So what we're now trying to do is we're trying to work out the system, how to launch brands systematically. So bring out 3 to 5 products at once around like a buyer theme or like a buyer persona, and just target that group, and then 6 months later bring out the new one to a different niche. So that's kind of like a new exciting thing that you think like, okay, this could be like really fun to do next.
I absolutely love this story. I really do. I love with business. One thing that just lights me up and gets me excited is the struggles that you have in a business of trying to turn those corners, right? Businesses have a tendency to grow, then plateau, then grow, then plateau.
Yeah.
And every time you reach that plateau, it's like you have a whole new set of challenges on your plate as to how do you get to that next level. And when people sell their businesses, it's often because they've plateaued at a certain level, and
Yep.
they might look at what that next rise is and take a look at it and say, do I want to do that? And oftentimes the answer is no, I don't want to do that. But sometimes it's yes. And seeing how it changes the dynamics of a business, that's exciting. That is so much fun to be able to see and to experience that. And I know with Quiet Light, I've experienced that, many times over the 14 years that we've been doing this. And it is fun. So I like your story. I love your story just on that basis alone. I'm quite sure that there are some people listening that would love to talk to you a little bit more, Michael, and just kind of get your insights on things. Do you have a way for them to contact you that you prefer?
Yeah, sure. Either Facebook or email or Instagram is fine. My name is a little bit difficult to spell though, because it's not American, but
I'm
I can spell it out.
Americanizing it as Michael. It's not. Is it Mihkel?
Yeah. So it's Mihkel at digitalmerchant.ee, or you can find me on Facebook, Mihkel, and my last name is Moosel, like Mosel.
Awesome. Fantastic. I want to thank you for coming on. This has been just a lot of fun to do and to talk to you. Do you have anything left that you want to say or anything that you'd like to share at the end here?
Maybe only one thing is that if you're frustrated as well, then I think the best cure for frustration in the business is to take a really honest look at what's going on and ask your colleagues as well. Like, what's helping us right now the most is that we ask other colleagues in our business, like, what do we suck at still, or what are we not so good at? What should we improve next? And, there's a certain level of extra frustration that comes from it, because like deep inside you have to face those facts now that, okay, you suck at something. But there's also a new level of excitement that comes with it, because, okay, now you're thinking, okay, now we're going up against the best guys in, I don't know, product photography. So, let's try to beat them. Let's see how it works. Let's really figure this out. So I think this actually helps a lot business-wise, because it's a long-term marathon, and you kind of have to make a series of good decisions on top of each other to make it.
Chuck in our company talks all the time about, he says, get ugly fast, which means look at the bad stuff and don't be afraid to just jump right into it. It's the best way to know how to improve the business. I'm going to take your inspiration that you just said as far as ask. I'm going to use that as a beautiful segue, because that's what I do. And I'll ask those that are listening, leave us a rating on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. We enjoy getting those ratings. If you think that we suck, feel free to say so. That's fine. Although you can email me that as well. Or better yet, email Joe that we suck. But if you do like this podcast, in all seriousness, please do leave a rating, leave a review. We always appreciate that. We appreciate you guys. Michael, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Mark.